Hi everyone, this is Choosing a Different Future with Siris Rivas. I'm Siris Rivas and I'm so excited for today's guest on our show. It was one of the first people that came to mind when I was considering creating this show. And I'm so glad it worked out with our busy schedules to be able to talk today and talk with you. And so hopefully this will be as much of a treat for you as it always is whenever I get to talk to this wonderful gentleman. I'm going to introduce him. This is John Ashford Jr., and he is a juvenile probation officer, an access bars facilitator, a father of many, not just the kids that he is the biological father to, but he can speak more to that, and a wonderful and loving husband. I've gotten to meet his wife. I actually met him and his wife around the same time, and we can speak about that. It was a very unique meet cute was as our friendship started. John, would you like to say hi?
Hello, how are you guys? I'm glad to be
Ah,
here. This is amazing.
welcome.
Thank you for having me too. Thank you so much.
Of course. How could I not? How could I not? So maybe let's tell people a little bit about how we even met, because that was pretty unique. And I just love it because it's really epitomizes just so much of what's been magical about my life in the last couple of years. And you've definitely added your magic to my journey, and I really appreciate it. I'm guessing, let's see, it was maybe 3 years ago now?
Yes.
Yeah.
March? Yes.
Holy cow. So
Yeah.
about
Yes.
3 years ago, we met in Seattle, Washington in the United States. And we were both taking an energetic synthesis of being class with Dr. Dane here, one of the co-founders of Access Consciousness.
Yes.
And at the time, I was an Access Bars facilitator. I had been traveling the world, and I get to meet John. And John, I think you remember the details a little bit better than me. I remember, oh my God, there's another black man here.
Yes.
I'm a black man. I guess inside somewhere, I consider myself a black man. I'm every race. But on top of that, it was like the energy that you were both gentle and yet so freaking powerful. And I remember being like, wow, I want to get to know him. Let's talk.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
asked you to run my bars. And I asked if you wanted to have an access bars swap. So you would run my bars and I would run your bars.
Yes.
And then that was the beginning of our conversations and our friendship. But there's something else I'm forgetting, I'm sure. What else would you add?
Yes. So it was when I came there, I noticed, I was like, okay, one of the things that being raised in Chicago and all, when I go in the room, I'm always like panning the room to see who else is of colors in the room. When I saw you, I was like, oh my God, but you were much, like you said, you allowed me to tap into the space of being much more than just what appears. And when I met you, it was like, and after we did I think you ran my bars first. I think so. And your energy was just like so vast.
Mm-hmm.
How do I become more of that? I already knew that I had a capacity with energy and space. And I'll explain that a little bit. Being potent. I know that in my career, in my life, I've been able to go in a room and things can change. But when I met you, it was just like, oh my God, another person who can do this just as powerful. And it was just like, I remember, because you did more than bars. You ran bars, but you ran some other energy processes on me. And when that happened, the room just expanded for me. And I was, oh, I have to get to know this sister a lot more, because I want people like this in my circle that I can tap into. And it was such a great invitation to be more of me.
I don't remember this, y'all. I don't remember what I ran other than bars. Like that class kind of rocks your world. And so I'm always like, each time we talk about it, like another piece is like, oh, that too. Oh, that too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
It's
you're
so
right.
great. Thank you for the beautiful acknowledgement. Wow.
Oh, no problem, no problem. But what I really, when I came to, that was my first access class outside of bars and foundation. I'll talk about that later. And coming there, I was on a journey. I was on a journey of adding something more. I'm a huge sci-fi geek. So I might, when we're talking today, I might talk about sci-fi movies, Star Wars, Batman, Marvel. I just love that Harry Potter. I love that type of energy. And
Yes.
and I'm in my 50s. So it's kind of funny because when I see myself talking to young people, they look at me like, how is this guy so into this and so old? My clients are all teenagers. But it's about being on a journey of magic. And I've had the pleasure of having that experience of being my entire life from like when I went to the seminary, growing up in Chicago, working for Club Med, moving to Portland, traveling. I've been on this journey my entire life of searching and being more magic.
Yeah. Yeah. And you continue to choose it.
Yes. Yes.
So when did that start for you? Like, do you have any particular like memory or moment where you were like, where you recognize that you were choosing something different than the people around you?
Yes. I was about 12
Wow. Okay. Tell me about that.
and I wanted to be a Catholic priest at the time. Now, there was no internet. There was nobody, there was no way of, how do I say? There was no connection other than me not knowing at the time being magic, being able to pull people towards me. And I found this seminary in Liberty, Missouri.
Okay.
And that's like 600 miles from Chicago. And I had a chance to go out there. And I came back and I told my parents, I remember telling my parents when I was like 12, I'm going to go away for school. And my mom and dad were like, what? You know, we're in South Side of Chicago. What are you talking about? You're going to move? I'm actually moving to another place. I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm going to be moving. They were like, okay, great. And the magic of it all is that I was also able to choose my parents that were really supportive in every step that I've taken.
I was gonna say, I was like, not all parents would have been like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Especially given, like, did you know anyone at the time that was choosing to move out of your neighborhood?
Nobody. I had a buddy by the name of Brian Coachman that I told him about this idea. He said, great, I'm with you. When it was time to pull the trigger and go, he was like, I'm out. I'm not doing this. And so by myself, and it was my first journey, because I was unknowing at the time that I had that capacity to do something like that. And I was in seminary for 8 years. I was in Liberty, Missouri for 4. I was in Kansas City for 3 afterwards. I was in France for 1 year while I was doing all of this. And I did not realize until I got much older that I was the type of person that was looking for magic. And the magic of it is, you know, I'm not really into Catholicism that much now, really at all. But I knew about entities and spirits and that as a little kid. And I did not know what it was at the time. And one of the things that I said, I remember I had this picture from my bed and I said, I want to be like that dude. And the dude I was talking about was Jesus, but not because of the magic he could do. Man, if I could turn water into wine, that's dope. That's one of the things that I was thinking about. I was like, if I can touch people and they can be touched, but they could touch me and they could get healed, I'm like, how fucking cool is that?
Yeah, that would be amazing. And you're able to do that and more now.
Yes. I'm working on the water to wine thing right now, but
well, yeah, there's some tools for that. We can talk about it. So here's the thing. I love this. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. There's something that you said that was like, oh, I was aware of this and this, but I didn't really have the words for it. And that's one of the things that I hear over and over again. And I spoke about with my siblings is that there was a possibility that we knew was available to us, that even though we didn't know, we weren't seeing anyone around us choosing it, because nobody was really looking like us. No one had a family like us that had people with disabilities, that had divorce, because we were one of the first people that we knew whose parents were getting divorced. So we didn't have anyone else. Now it's more common, right? But back then it was like there was this huge stigma. Everyone was trying to convince my mom not to get divorced. And so, but we knew that no matter what people were saying, we could have more. My brother has all these images up of like the houses he wants, and he's moving toward it, you know, no matter what's going on with him. And I love that you have the photos. You had the image of Jesus. You're like, I'm going to be more like him. I'm going to be more of that magic. And then the rest of the details, it sounds like it was exploration.
Yes.
Like
yes.
choosing and choosing and choosing, and just kind of knowing that, like, okay, getting that awareness and information as you're choosing.
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's so, so cool. So then how were people responding to you on your journeys? Like what were you discovering about yourself as you were going from place to place to place and trying out all these different things?
I was kind of lucky because I wasn't arrogant, but I didn't care what people thought.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
It was a lot of judgment from people, and it wasn't the type of judgment, oh, you're a bad person. It was more judgment of that's weird. And I realized from early on that I was weird, and I was okay. I was okay with being weird, you know. And I remember because when I went to school in France, it was 1983. None of my friends had been hell, I had been living in Kansas City and Liberty, Missouri, and none of my friends were all still in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to school in Europe, it was a choice that people were like, are you doing that? And it was just like, yeah. And I mean, I remember how I used to dress. I remember my mom told me, you can't wear this with that because they have to match. And I was like, why? Who says that? You know, if I want two colors to be together because I want to wear it, that's what I wanted to do. And
that's so funny. I had that conversation with myself even this morning. I was like, I want purple with this orange, but like maybe a different purple. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to find another purple now, because I definitely want to rock the purple with the orange, with the white, with the green hair, with the there's no such thing as like too much color
yes.
in my world. Yes. And what if that would be just fun? There doesn't have to be a reason for combining things.
Yes. And that for me, that's what I mean, I was willing to be risky with me. I was willing to take risk. And as I've gotten older, I realized that when I become unhappy is when I'm not taking the risk.
Oh, wow. Like you're not expanding your comfort zone. Like you're kind of becoming a little complacent, maybe?
Yes. When I'm become complacent, I get kind of bored with myself. And then there's this fine line of which I'm actually pushing out of. I had this thing of, with all of this on my journey, of being nice. And you said something that's kind of interesting, you know, and I think a friend of ours, Dr. Dane here, said this about me once. I'm a nice teddy bear. And
I would not describe you as nice at all. Because for me, nice is someone that's not willing to rock the boat.
Yeah.
I think you're kind.
Yes.
I think you're sweet. I don't think you're nice, because you're absolutely willing to rock the boat and shake up people's realities. And that's part of the potency. That's part of how powerful you are to me.
Yes.
I'm like, you walk in and it's like whoosh in the room too. Like like we had to like be more spacious just to be on this call together.
Yes, exactly.
When our powers combine, you know?
Yes. It's crazy.
It is every time. I'd love to point this other really cool thing you said, which was there's two things. One, it's like, oh, everyone was saying that you were weird. And my whole life, people were telling me that I was weird and that I was different, and not necessarily always using those words. Those were the kinder versions of the words that they would often throw my way. And one of the things that I loved that the founders of Access Consciousness said at some point was they gave me the information of the energetic origins of the word weird.
Yes.
And it's of spirit, faith, and destiny.
Destiny, yes.
And even now I say it and I get goosebumps. Yes. I'm just like, because that was so like, that's actually what I am in the world. Like that's actually what's true for me. I am of spirit, faith and destiny. Like I have faith in myself. I know what's true for me. I'm moving toward it. And 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 there is an awareness of future with that, with the weird. And
Yes.
not everyone's willing to be aware of what their choices are creating, what future their choices are creating. And you are. And it seems like, for at least as long as I've known you, which has just been a few years in this life, you've had the sense of that. You were super duper weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
I've
even
become,
remember one time someone saying, "Wow, you're very spirited," and I was like, "Huh." Yeah, I kind of am, and I get that you are too, brother.
yes, yes, yes. And
So we can
it's
talk
not a
for
problem.
hours, but I definitely want to make sure we talk a little bit about the
Okay.
unique things that you do too, with empowering youth to choose a different future and create a different future for themselves. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with children and teenagers as a juvenile probation officer, and how that's changed over the years, and because you've also been adding on access consciousness tools with that.
Mhm.
I know we can talk quite a bit about it. Just give people an idea, and maybe some examples of like what you've been seeing with your work with these wonderful, amazing youth that much of society would have given up on, and you
Yeah,
haven't.
yeah. So I've been working in the juvenile department for almost 28 years exactly. And I've been working with teenagers and their families. Um, since day one, when I got hired in 1990, I wanted to offer young people another opportunity. I didn't know what the opportunity was going to be, but I wanted to offer them something more, something different. I wanted to be that energy, that example for them that things could be possibly different in their world. I thought that everybody should be able to be weird. I thought everybody should be able to go to Europe if they wanted to. I thought everybody should be able to choose their own destiny, what they wanted to choose. And I wanted to bring that forth. Uh, and I was willing, and I had a poster in my office, and I still have it in my office, of Malcolm X when he was saying, "By any means necessary." I was willing to be whatever I needed to be when they showed up. So they if they wanted to choose something different, they could choose something different. And nothing was too risque to talk about. Nothing, there was no barriers. And I was willing to be that energy. And I was willing actually to do probation totally different. I knew there, I've always had a hard time following rules. So I was like, how can I squeak under or above the rule so that I can allow this young person and their family to be more of them, to be,
Yeah, to flourish.
yes, not to just survive, because what happens is that a lot of the people that I work with are within poverty. And I was like, I show them how to start thriving.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Willing to do anything when they showed up. And because usually when families come see me in the very beginning, they're kind of nervous because they have some type of allegation from the juvenile system, and they're very nervous. They don't know what the outcome's going to be. And I always told people that I'm never going to lie to you. I'm never going to set you up. You're never coming to my office. I would arrest you. You would know that before you came. I would not do that. I knew certain people would do it. Well, I can't do it. I was like, look, I'm going to open this relationship. You might like me or not like me, but at least you're going to be like, he's always been honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, I wanted to take advantage of what we could create, but also not what we could create. The most important piece that I think for me that's been different is that when I'm in a room with anybody, it's give and take.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to learn something from this other individual.
Yeah. And so you were actually willing to receive from them instead of
Yes.
just talking at them and
Yes.
forcing your point of view and agenda at them.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I think we've really bonded on, is that because I was working with kids too, many of which were in Medicaid, in poverty, a lot younger children, more
Yes.
birth to 6 and birth to 8 and things like that in the homes. And yet that's one of the philosophies, one of the stances that we were taking with these people, is like, we're actually willing, and their families, we're willing to receive from them just as much as we're giving. Like, we get that that they have just as much to contribute to our lives
Right.
as we are hopefully going to be able to contribute to them. But it's actually seeing the value in them and their experience and their awareness just as much as maybe they'll receive something, some kind of, aha moment, some like, wow, from the questions we ask, from the resources we provide, from the people we connect them to. And
Yes.
and that's not, I've worked with a lot of people with the youth. And, both of my parents are teachers. I've been raised around teachers. And I got to tell you, you don't see that all the time.
Right.
You don't see that people who are educators and people who are working with our young folk are willing to actually receive from them. Like, they're just like, okay, I'm going to control them.
Right.
I'm going to teach them, which is different than I'm going to empower them. I'm going to facilitate their awareness. I'm going to, model these things and see if they can actually get these tools and these strategies for their future. It's a really different space to function from. And I just freaking love that about you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I one of the things that I always wanted, I'm a dreamer, and I'm beyond hope. I'm actually about trying to make magic happen. And what I mean by that is that when I'm working with kids and their families, what would this world look like when a family comes to me if there were a million more families like this that were more empowered?
Mm.
And what I mean by something, and I know the term that some people know consciousness, but what does consciousness mean? For me, it's like when people are in the space of being in choice. What can they be in choice of? That they just don't have to accept things as they are.
Yeah.
So that is a huge goal for me, for everybody, for young people as adults. I'm looking at what can I do to show them about choice.
Yeah.
The choice.
And I would actually add a little bit more to that, John. I love that. It's showing them that the choices beyond where things are right now, and also the choices beyond what people are telling them are possible.
Right.
Because it's like some teachers, right? Some teachers and educators will tell you, oh, well, this is possible, and this is possible. And it's a little bit outside of where they're at. But what we're talking about is like, no, let's just blow all the caps, all the ceilings, all the limits, like, whoosh.
Yes.
Way, 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 like too much. What other people might consider too much, and inviting them to that instead.
Yes. And I mean, and I've used all types of forms of media, music, hip hop, classical music, books. The first real book that I think that I started using with young people, because I wanted to get creative. I was like, they can come and pick up garbage anytime. Okay. They can come and pull weed anytime. But what would happen for society if they got some nuggets that would change their way of being, that they're no longer going to create any more crimes. They're going to be actually seeking more of them on the planet and within themselves. And so the first book that really, there's two books that the first one I used the autobiography of Malcolm X for a lot of my African-American males who were coming in, because I want them to see something about being different and choosing to be different throughout life and having some type of idea about where you wanted to go. That I really used was The Alchemist. And I used that over and over and over again because I wanted young people to know that life is a journey. There's a line from Bob Marley that he talks about life being a journey and a lot of signs and stuff. And I was like, Bob Marley, by the way, is one of the greatest influencers, I guess. One of the influences for me on why I chose. In 1976, when I first got my first album from Bob Marley from my uncle.
And that was before Instagram, because they have like Instagram and social media influencers. Yes. No.
Yes. Yes. And I would use anything like, and so The Alchemist was a book that allowed young people to realize that they could take a journey. And what happens is they start to see, oh, this person's searching for something. They're looking for something. And at the end, they find out it was already within them. It's already where they started. More questions about what they were really looking for. And then I transitioned, as you know, to Being You, Changing the World book, which I use primarily for a lot of young people. And what I start to do with some of these tools, because I have the ability of having the families come in the first session, I really challenge the parents to take a look at what their children are doing so that they're not taken by surprise if they start asking questions like, you know, certain questions that Access will ask them. Or even within the book of The Alchemist, a lot of parents have not had the opportunity to take that journey within themselves and outside of themselves because society just does not support that for people a lot of times.
Yeah,
So,
they don't really encourage that. It's like, no,
yes.
stay here, stay within these confines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so, and talking to young people about it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. Remember how you came in here the first time you came into my office and you're a little bit uncomfortable? It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's really okay to be uncomfortable. And because everybody thinks life has to be comfortable all the time. Uncomfortable is not a bad thing.
Yeah. It's actually an invitation in my interesting point of view. It's like this invitation to like, okay, what are you aware of, to ask questions? And also, like, what can you choose that's past that discomfort that might expand your world?
Yes.
Like, what's waiting for you beyond that? Because I can't tell you, like, the other point that I was going to bring up that you brought up earlier was the word weird. And I'm so glad we got back to it because I almost forgot to bring up the second one. And it's I was willing to risk it on me. I was willing to risk for me. Yes. And I was like, well, I wonder if it was actually a risk at all. If you have this sense of knowing, like we use the word risk, but risk almost implies like there's even the possibility of failure or a mistake. And if it's just information and you can keep choosing and choosing and choosing, you're never really failing or mistakes. Like, okay, I learned from that. I got it. Did it work for me? Did it not work for me? If it worked, cool. Maybe I'll do some more of that.
Yes.
If it didn't work, okay, I'm going to choose something different. But as soon as we call something a failure or a mistake, then we start judging ourselves for that instead of actually choosing more and choosing something different.
Right. And then you feel wrong. I think so many people are just used to being wrong. You know, uncomfortable that they're like, no. So they won't take that challenge. They won't take that chance they won't choose something different because what happens if I lose? What happens if it's wrong? What happens if I'm sad?
Yeah. But what about all the things that could happen that would be awesome? Like
awesome. Yeah. Like, okay, now let's erase this. Now what? You know, you worried about that. So what, I mean, and I want to keep it very real. I don't want people that are listening to this and watching this to think that I don't have those moments where I'm in that space too. I'm still going through that space and I have to ask myself tons of questions about when things show up. And I'm trying to teach myself how to go through life without expectations.
Yeah.
Because we have expectations, you can be let down. What if you can be, and that's not like you don't choose. I don't want people to think, well, what do you mean not have expectations? If it doesn't show up the way I desired, what's right about this?
Yeah.
What is fucked up about it? Excuse me, I hope this is my language, but.
Nope, this is a YouTube radio station. We could totally, we could totally swear.
Yeah. So I
can even have somebody bleep it out.
So for me, it's just the whole aspect of allowing people to know that there is something else within all of the things that they're around and being. There's a multitude. It's like when I close my eyes in a dark room, I can feel the presence of different entities. And I remember when I was younger, I had a little bit more fear. Now I'm willing to ask questions of those entities that make me feel awkward, or ask them for some help about something.
Yeah.
What would it be like if everyone that I touched, that I worked with, was able to start or begin on that journey of being comfortable with the unknown and asking questions and being in what I call consciousness.
Yeah. What would it be like? I love that question. And I love that you said, like, oh, what's right about this, when you're really uncomfortable or when you're going through those moments of judging yourself, because I absolutely have that too, especially with a lot of changes and as you're considering new pursuits and avenues and things like that. As you are expanding your world, there's absolutely those moments of discomfort. There's absolutely those moments where you could revert into all the things that could go wrong.
Yes.
And one of the things that with the projections and expectations, it's like, as soon as you do projections and expectations about anything or anyone, you start limiting possibilities. You start kind of
Yes.
putting blinders to you being aware of everything that could be possible. And at least for me, and I know from our conversations in the past, for you, there was a lot of that was projected and expected of you by other
Yes.
people, because you were a
Yeah.
Black man, because you were raised in the South Side of Chicago, and more, and all these other things.
Yes.
And what if we could be aware of what is possible,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how many people project and expect anything from us? Like, what if we could actually be total visionaries and know like 360 degrees of possibility for ourselves,
Yeah.
and roll the dice and play and explore and expand our worlds for ourselves, and not let anybody's projections and expectations of us limit what we know to be true.
Exactly.
And my brother, I know that you do that every day for these kids, and I know that you're on this journey for yourself, for your loved ones, with me. I'm so grateful for it. I definitely don't want to end our talk today without people knowing how they can reach you. We can definitely come back again. Please, you're welcome anytime. Open
Yes.
door.
Yes. I appreciate this. Anytime I'll come back. Let me know.
To come. We might have you be an honorary guest on a monthly basis. Let's see. We're gonna get people to vote on that. But if you like this video, go ahead, y'all, and feel free to like under here. We're gonna put John's contact information below. I believe your website is beingjohnashford.com, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So you can find out more about him through there, his events, and also he has Access Consciousness classes more
Yes.
and more around the world.
Yes.
And you can find him on there at accessconsciousness.com/John Ashford.
Yes.
And so just so many options there. Before we go, John, one last question.
Yes.
For now.
Okay.
For now. If you could invite the world to a different future, if you were like, okay, I'm going to wave a magic wand, I'm going to be the magic that I be, and this is what I would like the future to be like, what future would you like to invite people to? And or maybe you've already been inviting people to.
For me, sometimes when I look around the world, I see great sadness, and I would like to invite people to choose joy, to wake up every day, regardless of what's going on, and say either out loud or within themselves, I'm choosing joy.
Mm-hmm.
My whole desires for people, that they can experience something called joy without defining it.
Yeah.
What would joy look like? That would be my greatest invitation for people on the planet. I mean, because I'm trying not to get emotional, but sometimes it's like when you're living, as Michael Franti said, the top of your lungs, and you're having fun with this planet, it is such a fucking gift.
Yeah, it is.
And so many people have even not had that, felt that they have that experience, or they have forgotten about joy. And that's why I do what I do. It's just like, if I had to be a superhero in Avengers, I'll be the Joy Man, the joyful man. You know, I mean, what power would that be if people had that?
Yeah.
That's what I live for.
I
That's
love it.
what I live for.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much
much, sister. Thank you for having me.
for that, for everything that you be and that you're choosing and creating, for your contribution to creating a different future for you, for everyone that you touch, and for us all. And yes, open invitation anytime to come back.
Thank you.
Let us know what y'all think below. If you'd like John to come back on the show, let us know.
Yes.
More likely he will come back, because this man's a busy guy, traveling all over, creating change. And how does it get any better? What else is possible? So until next time, thank you for watching, everyone. Watching Choosing a Different Future with Siris Rivas. And you can check things out at our website, choosingadifferentfuture.com. And submit requests for other guests. If you think somebody else should be on here that I have this conversation with about choice, future, and creation, let me know. Until then, bye.
Bye.